This was a brutal attack on Katrina Smith.
A vicious murder.
The individual who attacked her was going to make sure that she did not survive.
A dark mystery with multiple suspects.
She felt that she was being followed or stalked by somebody.
Katrina knew that her life was in danger.
Peeping Toms are actually a very high-risk category of voyeur, so that is an immediate red flag.
The truth will be revealed.
How did he know about blood in the trunk? This is bigger than just one piece. This is a whole huge corner of that puzzle.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. Machesney Park, Illinois, a quiet enclave 2 hours from Chicago.
Machesney Park is kind of like a bedroom community. It's a smaller community. It's more quaint.
It's very close-knit. You can leave your doors open, and there's not a lot of crime.
You have your vehicle burglaries, you have, your home burglaries that happen, crimes of opportunity, crimes of violence in Machesney Park. That doesn't happen every day. That's not Chicago. It's more relaxed. It's a safer city.
But on the afternoon of October 23rd, that peaceful tranquility is brutally shattered.
Sheriff's Communications, can I help you?
My wife, I'm concerned because I haven't been able to reach her.
Okay.
We had a frantic, distraught, worried husband, Todd Smith. He reports that his wife has disappeared.
You haven't been able to reach your wife?
Right.
What's your wife's name?
Katrina?
He had seen her the night before. And now all of a sudden, he's very concerned because she hasn't contacted him. She hasn't answered the phone, and he doesn't know what's happened to her.
The missing woman is 30-year-old Katrina Smith.
From the information we gathered about Katrina, she's a super friendly woman who would do anything for anybody.
Katrina works in human resources at a local automotive plant.
She was at work every day at 8 o'clock at Cameron Industries. Excellent employee, always had a smile on her face, always cheery. She attended church in Rockford quite regularly. She was very devoted to her family.
Tasked with investigating the disappearance of Katrina Smith are veteran detective Vince Lindbergh and Criminal Bureau Chief Prosecutor Marilyn Height Ross.
The State's Attorney's Office is involved very early on any crime investigation that appears to be suspicious. So once Katrina Smith was reported missing, we were involved immediately.
Investigators meet with Katrina's husband, Todd Smith, to gain more information about her disappearance.
The night before, which would have been October 22nd, Katrina had confirmed a job interview for the morning of October 23rd at 7:30, and then she was to report to work after that.
Before 7 a.m., Todd had texted Katrina, wishing her well on her job interview. You'll do well, knock it out of the park.
But she never appeared for the job interview, and she did not report for work on October 23rd.
He had attempted to call her, attempted to contact her. She had vanished, she had disappeared.
Investigators get their first big break when Katrina's car is spotted only a few miles from her house.
The car was recovered right about 7:50 that night, roughly 2 hours after Todd had made the report. It was on Ventura, which is about 3 to 4 miles away from the family house.
It was parked near the edge of the river, and it was just abandoned.
This is not a habitual place for anyone to leave their car, so this in itself is strange.
If it's someone who might have attacked her and wanted her vehicle, we suspect that the vehicle would have been moved from the Winnebago County area, and it had not been moved. So we were suspicious then that she was probably not alive.
I mean, this is a girl who is, by every definition, just a fantastic, solid family woman who has a solid job, a career that she's looking to improve. So what we're thinking now is something suspicious, something foul had happened to Katrina.
To solve the mystery, investigators will need to piece together the last 24 hours of her life.
It's a puzzle, and each piece you have to see where it fits to make a story, to make a case. So timeline is everything.
But with no sign of Katrina, detectives have their work cut out for them.
There's forensic evidence that you can obtain from your victim, which will narrow your timeline. Without a crime scene, we just don't know. We're still kind of shooting in the dark here.
The community of McChesney Park bands together to help find Katrina Smith.
Hundreds of people literally come out from the community searching everywhere. They were instructed anything that they thought was unusual or suspicious to right away call us, and we would have our crime scene officers come out and gather up that evidence.
After hours of searching, authorities find some unsettling items belonging to Katrina.
We located her cellular phone, which was found in a bush that was not far from the marital home in the area of the Rock River. We also located her purse, which was found in that same area a short distance away.
This is not consistent with someone who just took the day off work and is playing hooky, or someone who has decided to go missing or make themselves disappear.
The abandoned vehicle, along with the personal items, are an ominous sign.
What I'm thinking is that someone has probably killed Katrina. And I don't think at this point it's someone who was a total stranger, because they left all of her valuables. They didn't take her car, they didn't take her purse.
The first person investigators interview is Katrina's husband, Todd, who filed the missing persons report.
Todd was distraught. He was so concerned about her. He loved her. They had just taken an anniversary trip and celebrated their 7-year marriage.
The partner's the first person that the investigators look at because that's the person that has the most emotional investment into the victim. Whether it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband or wife, that's always the person that seems to be the most connected.
Todd is cooperative and willing to answer any questions that come his way.
I'm asking him, does she have a gambling problem? Todd tells me no. She wouldn't do that. Does she have a drug problem? Nope, that's out of the question. Does she have a problem with having a relationship outside the family, outside of him? Absolutely not. They both supposedly had been cheated on in the past, so that would never come up. That would never be a focus of any problems. Todd explained that to us, that their marriage was excellent.
But Katrina has been staying at a friend's condominium, which raises questions for detectives.
Why is she staying somewhere else and you're staying at the family home?
He indicated that there were no issues in the marriage. Katrina was house sitting for her friend at the condominium, and that everything was fine.
Detectives question Todd about the last time he saw Katrina.
He tells us that Katrina had arrived home at about 6 p.m. He said that she arrived at the home to do laundry because she had a job interview the next morning. Todd had told us that she was very concerned about her appearance for the interview, so she wanted to go out and grab a new outfit. So she left the home at 9 o'clock p.m. to do some shopping for her job interview.
That night, Katrina was planning to sleep at the condo she was looking after. An avid football fan, she was looking forward to the game.
She was a Bears fan. She didn't want to miss the game. And so she wanted to get back to her friend's condo to watch the game. He had sent her a message at about 11 p.m. that night saying sweet dreams and expected to hear back from her. He didn't, so he figured she was probably in bed asleep because she was very focused on this job interview for the next morning.
Detectives searched the condo, looking for clues about what may have happened to Katrina.
There was no sign that Katrina had slept there the night before or had been there at all. We now know that she never made it back to the condominium. And so the question is, what has happened in between that time period?
Detectives have now determined Katrina was likely killed between 7:30 a.m. and 9 p.m. the night before, on October 22nd. Armed with this information, they questioned Todd about his whereabouts during this time period.
After Katrina left the family home that night, Todd had told us that he did do some emailing on his computer and then went to bed. Now, we know from Todd's cell phone that he did text Katrina at about 11 p.m. that night or shortly after 11 p.m. and said, sweet dreams, good night. The next day, Todd had appointments to go out on, but during the morning, he worked from home and he did some emails.
Basically, the computer that he would have been working from home on confirmed that he was at home.
With Todd's alibi checking out, detectives now shift their focus to other potential suspects.
We're looking for any speck of information that can give us a lead that may be able to help us determine what has happened to her. Todd tells us a couple years prior, they had a peeping Tom at their house. Someone was peeping at their home. It was determined that it was a young man from the neighborhood area.
Whenever you have a peeping Tom in a neighborhood, that is an immediate red flag. Peeping Toms, for years, were dismissed as sort of a nuisance crime. We now know better. Peeping Toms are actually a very high-risk category of voyeur. These behaviors often escalate to actual attacks.
This could have been a person lurking around the home to potentially attack her once she had left the home.
In the investigation, we find out the young man's actually connected to Katrina and Todd through a church youth organization. He lives in the neighborhood. He has been to the house before. We want to look into that. That's a potential lead. I mean, if he's peeping 2 years ago, has his behavior progressed to murder?
Working a theory that a peeping Tom who targeted Katrina in the past might have turned violent, detectives hunt him down.
Somebody who's spying on people or looking in on people, say through their windows, they're engaging in obtaining intimate information about that person without their consent. The majority of people don't escalate into hands-on offenders, people who would rape or murder, but it can happen.
We go back through all the reports of anything that has happened in that neighborhood that's suspicious. And there was a second report of a peeper in that same neighborhood. It was reported by a different woman who had a very similar resemblance to Katrina.
Detectives canvass the neighborhood for information on a potential stalker when they notice a video surveillance camera at a neighbor's home.
We asked the owner for the video, and that video was not a great video. It's dark outside, it's raining heavily, but in that video, it discloses a figure crossing his yard on the 22nd, late at night while it's raining.
The person appeared to be walking in the direction of Katrina and Todd's home at approximately 11:30 p.m. You could not tell who the individual was, but what you could tell is that it appeared to be a male. It appeared to be someone of small stature.
Then this figure goes across his yard and into a field. Now, who's gonna be out in a rainstorm like that, cutting through a field? It's just something that really raises red flags.
Identifying this person could be the break detectives need to unravel the mystery of Katrina's disappearance.
Is this the young man that was peeping 2 years ago? We need to look at him and find out, is there any potential of him being a valid suspect in the disappearance of Katrina? Is that minute possibility may be the key to open up the whole case.
Detectives track down the peeping Tom, who's living several hours away.
This individual was in fact in college and was on the college campus at the time that Katrina went missing.
He tells detectives he never left campus that night. They check the school's security logs and video, which confirm the young man's story.
Law enforcement was able to substantiate that he was nowhere near Katrina the night she went missing, nor the marital home.
With the peeping Tom theory proving to be a dead end, detectives return to the timeline, hoping it will reveal something new about Katrina Smith's final steps on the day she disappeared.
Katrina Smith worked as an HR representative. She had worked in that field for approximately 4 to 5 years. She was very well liked by her coworkers and her supervisors. Christina, her supervisor, had last seen her on October 22nd, that Monday, at approximately 5 p.m. when Katrina had left work.
Talking with Katrina's supervisor, detectives learn about an alarming incident that recently took place at Katrina's work.
Christina tells us it was during a lunch hour at Cameron Industries where a vehicle had pulled through the parking lot and disseminated about 300 or so flyers.
The flyer was very derogatory, and it was disparaging the character of Katrina Smith.
Why would anybody disseminate flyers through a parking lot of a business, ridiculing and demeaning Katrina? So this is very disturbing.
This is someone whose anger justifies and rationalizes what they do next. It could be distributing flyers one day, posting things on social media one day. It could be something much worse another day.
Initially, it was not reported to the police because everyone thought it was just an isolated incident. But after she went missing, we were able to recover the video.
The driver of that vehicle, he or she, is disguised with a wig, glasses, and unfortunately, the vehicle, although it was black, we had no license plate because the license plates were not on the vehicle.
From the video, it's impossible to identify the car or the driver, but detectives have gained a shocking new detail about Katrina's personal life.
The flyer also indicated that she was having an affair with someone and was cheating on her husband.
So now we have a flyer that's being disseminated by an unknown suspect that's referring to Katrina having a relationship with somebody at work named Guy.
Guy Gabriel is a recently divorced co-worker who has been seen spending time with Katrina.
We're getting this information from Christina at work that there is rumors that Guy Gabriel and Katrina are having a relationship.
Katrina had eventually started to confide in Christina that there were marital issues and that the marriage was not going well.
This was something that was never mentioned by Todd Smith in the initial interview. We don't know that Todd Smith has any knowledge of their relationship. And as a matter of fact, in his statements, he swore that they had gone through some relationship problems in the past and that they would never seek comfort outside the home.
Detectives learn more about Katrina's relationship with Guy Gabriel.
When our crime scene officers ended up diving into Katrina's phone, we confirmed that Guy Gabriel and Katrina were having a romantic relationship. They went out a couple times for lunch a few times and talked, and she shared problems with Guy. But then eventually that relationship became closer. And he had come to the point where their conversations had been about Katrina divorcing Todd Smith.
Investigators bring Guy Gabriel into the station for questioning.
He was irritated a bit that we wanted a formal interview.
They ask him to recount the last time he saw Katrina.
Sunday night, which was the 21st, Guy Gabriel and Katrina had stayed together at Kelly's condo. On Monday morning, Guy Gabriel gets up. This is the morning of the 22nd, and he sees her off to work.
The next time Guy communicates with Katrina is when she returns to her home that night after work.
The last communication that we believe Katrina made to Guy Gabriel was at approximately 7:30 p.m. when she indicated she wanted to be at the condominium for Monday Night Football.
Katrina may have only texted Guy once that night, but he was texting her nonstop.
The night of October 22nd, he's on edge, waiting to hear from Katrina on whether or not she was going to disclose to Todd that she wanted a divorce. That night, their text messages indicate that Guy was very concerned about, have you told him yet? How's things going? He wants her to tell Todd that the relationship's over with. Now that does send up red flags, because now you have somebody who is having a relationship with Katrina that appears to be very obsessed with her leaving her husband.
This can very quickly escalate to become a very dangerous, volatile situation. You introduce jealousy, you introduce resentment, and those can be powerful motivators for someone who lacks basic impulse control and who needs to be in control.
We don't know that she's ready at that point for sure to tell Todd that she wants things done with. Maybe she's changing her mind, maybe something else has happened. Did Guy Gabriel then get upset and something happened between the hours of 9 o'clock and the following morning? At this point, we don't know exactly where he's texting her from. Is he texting her from around the corner? Is he watching the house? Is it possible that after she leaves the home, as Todd says, to go back and shop, that her and Guy Gabriel meet up? He is our primary focus. He is our primary suspect. Could this be the guy? We have to investigate him.
Detectives are zeroing in on a new person of interest in the disappearance of Katrina Smith, her secret boyfriend, Guy Gabriel.
So, did Guy Gabriel have any contact with her that night, either near the home, or did they meet up later that night, and then things went awry from there? That is a possibility.
They look into Guy's movements in the critical window during which Katrina went missing.
Guy Gabriel indicated that Sunday night he had stayed at the condominium with Katrina Smith. Katrina went to work that morning, and then that evening he left to go to work because he worked the graveyard shift.
Guy's shift began at 8 p.m., and he said he was at work until 8 a.m. the next morning.
There's always an opportunity to leave work, right? So we went to Cameron Industries.
Detectives checked video surveillance and the security logs at Guy Gabriel's workplace. They show that he was in the building the whole night.
We were able to pull all of the video footage of him being in and out, supervising other individuals who had interacted with him.
If Guy Gabriel would have left Cameron Industries that evening during work, we would have seen it on that video. So we were able to eliminate Guy Gabriel.
With Guy Gabriel now in the clear, the investigation hits a roadblock.
It's frustrating. I try to take a personal approach to every case I work, I really do. This case for me was about Katrina, and once you learn about Katrina and what a wonderful person she was and what a wonderful family she has, you want to do the best job you can for them. You want to solve this case, and you want to do it right.
Investigators look to the family for more information regarding Katrina's final movements.
Bruce was Katrina's stepfather. He basically raised Katrina with her mom, Vicki.
He was with us. He was so concerned about her.
Detectives ask Bruce if he knows of anyone who would want to harm Katrina.
He tells us that Katrina feels that she's being followed and stalked by somebody. She just didn't know by whom. Katrina was so concerned that she has a conversation with a Verizon employee talking about, is there any way somebody could bug or clone her phone because she feels like somebody's keeping track of her and following her. And then all of a sudden on the 19th, he gets this text from her asking about getting a gun for protection. So, the alarm bells are going off with him.
Talk of getting a gun just days before she goes missing suggests Katrina was looking to defend herself.
It is apparent that Katrina was in fear of something and that she felt that she was being followed or stalked by somebody.
Katrina knew that her life was in danger and in jeopardy.
As detectives work to uncover the identity of who could be stalking Katrina, something unusual catches their eye.
Every day, people are searching for Katrina. They are searching for evidence. Todd is at the search party scenes, but does not appear to be engaged. Todd is conducting interviews with the local media. There's crying with no tears.
It's been horrible. I just wanted to come home.
It's just like his emotions weren't genuine. His crocodile tears, his sadness and everything.
You know, there's emotion without emotion. And we are seeing this play out before the cameras.
For good investigators, gut instincts are honed. This is where investigators need to pay particular attention to the nuances, the micro expressions, as we call them, of potential persons of interest.
I'm a detective that watches behavior. Todd's behavior was very inconsistent with somebody that was suffering from a missing wife, a missing loved one.
Based on his suspicious behavior, detectives take another look at Todd, now as a potential suspect.
Todd had told us the marriage was excellent. He maintained the whole time that they weren't going to get divorced.
But when detectives talk to Katrina's friends, they get a different story.
October 13th, she went out for a girls' night with her girlfriends. During that night, she told one of her girlfriends, Jill, that she was not happy in the marriage, and she had brought up the word divorce several times in the conversation. The night of the 22nd, Jill's husband made a phone call to Todd. Todd told him that Katrina was coming over to do laundry and that she wanted to talk to him. And Jill's husband said, well, that sounds good. Maybe that's good. Todd says, no, I think it's done. I think she's done with me.
This tips off detectives that Todd is aware his marriage is in trouble, which is not what he initially told police.
The whole time, Todd is telling us the marriage is great, no problems in the marriage, and everything's going well. But Katrina is relaying to her friends, her co-workers, that her marriage isn't good. So the statements that Todd gave us, we're able to pick apart several of those statements as untruths.
As detectives become more suspicious of Todd, the forensic results from Katrina's car finally come in. The discovery is shocking.
It was pretty much neon lights when the luminol was sprayed into the trunk of the vehicle. We were able to see the outline of a body that had been placed in the trunk of her vehicle.
How do you explain blood in a trunk? It was apparent that someone had been placed in that trunk. We believe that blood was Katrina's.
Detectives have found Katrina's blood in the trunk of her car. This new evidence is key, revealing more about the disappearance.
Katrina had bled out significantly. There was even blood on the bumper of the vehicle, so we know that when she was placed in the vehicle, she was most likely substantially incapacitated.
Sometimes you have some, even without a body, evidence of a crime. You have some blood spatter. You have what's called exsanguination, which is blood volume, which in terms of no-body homicides is as close to a smoking gun as you can get.
Now we know we have a crime scene at the car, whether it happened there or somewhere else, and the car was just used as transportation to hide, eliminate the body.
With suspicion now building around Katrina's husband, Todd, investigators dig into his background.
We know that Todd Smith had a business where he was a financial advisor, and this was his own business. It was not as productive and successful as he had portrayed it to be. He was facing a fraud lawsuit in federal court. Katrina was actually the breadwinner in the family. She was the one that paid for the mortgage on the home, that paid all of the bills.
Todd's potential motive starts to become crystal clear.
We also learned that Todd was very possessive and jealous of Katrina, and the fact that she might now want to move on and get a divorce was very disturbing to Todd.
As detectives look deeper into Todd's past, they learn something even more alarming.
In the investigation, I ended up speaking with a family member of Todd Smith's, and his name was Justin. Justin was a half-brother to Todd. The story was that at 17 years old, Todd ended up disconnecting a gas line from the stove and ended up blowing up the home in an attempt to kill Justin, his sister, the mom, and the dad.
At the time, Todd was sentenced to 30 months probation, and he became permanently estranged from his family.
It paints a picture of someone who appears to be a meek and mild individual, but underneath there's a seething pot of anger and jealousy that erupts in a violent manner that could end in someone's death.
When we learn more about Todd's past, that he's this troubled, violent, fire-starting teenager, this Jekyll and Hyde character emerged that then casts, I think, further doubt on all of his stories.
As detectives uncover Todd's criminal past, they get a phone call that turns the case on its head.
Todd is upset. Todd is very upset. And he discusses how upset he is about Katrina's blood being found in the trunk of the vehicle.
For detectives, this is a red flag. No one in the sheriff's department has released the information about Katrina's blood being found in the car.
He tells us one of Katrina's family members told him about it. So we're talking to the family members. None of them knew anything about it. So how did Todd know about blood in the trunk?
Only the killer would know that there would be blood in the trunk. That had not been released to the public. It had not been disclosed to the family members.
Now believing Todd likely murdered Katrina, investigators search for physical evidence to tie him to the crime.
We searched the computers and we were able to find remnants of this disparaging flyer that had been distributed at Katrina's workplace before she went missing.
Now, how does that flyer, outlining a relationship, very rudely might I ask, between Guy and Katrina, how does that flyer end up on his computer? Did Katrina put it there? No. Who's the only other person that could have authored that on his laptop? Him?
The individual distributing the flyers in disguise, in fact, ended up being Todd.
Todd did everything he could to try to erase everything, but he doesn't realize that a computer keeps secrets, even when you try to delete them.
Todd passing out these types of flyers and trying to degrade, humiliate Katrina is horrible enough in itself. This, in my mind, has violent motivation as well.
When investigators comb through Todd's computer, it yields even more clues.
We also discover a tracking software, which coincides with a small box that one of our detectives located and right away identified it as some kind of housing for a tracker.
Before she disappeared, Katrina believed she was being followed, and she was right. Todd had been tracking her every move.
That tracking software that was on the computer was forensically analyzed by one of our detectives. He was able to show that the night Katrina disappeared, the night of October 22nd, that tracker was taken from the car, then seen following a path through the woods, which coincides with the resident who has the videotape of that figure going across that gentleman's front yard. It then concludes its tracking just a very short distance from the Smith home.
What we believe Todd did was after he had dumped her car, he removed the tracking device, but he thought it was off and it was not.
This is that huge piece of the puzzle. This is bigger than just one piece. This is a whole huge corner of that puzzle.
Katrina's husband, Todd, has become the prime suspect in her murder. Detectives bring him in for questioning and confront him about what they've discovered.
I confront him with the flyers. I confront him with the marriage. I confront him with the track stick. I confront him with everything. His response was to ignore those confrontations. He didn't say a word. He didn't respond to my accusations. If you were being accused of murder and didn't do it, wouldn't you come back at me? He didn't do that. He just sat there. And then at the very end, he said, "Didn't do it? I want a lawyer." And then he pointed up at the camera and said, "I want a lawyer." And he was screaming. He was so upset.
Detectives have linked Todd Smith to his wife's murder, but they still don't arrest him.
They have nearly all the circumstantial evidence they need, but they hold out and stay focused, looking for that final piece to close the circle. Good evidence often can mean the difference between making an arrest and someone being acquitted at trial, and making an arrest and making sure that person never gets out.
Then on November 9th, 3 weeks after Katrina Smith went missing, investigators get the break they've been looking for.
An off-duty firefighter noticed what appeared to be something in the water that shouldn't be there.
Unfortunately, through that investigation and through that autopsy, we were able to determine it was Katrina Smith.
Individuals always think that when they toss a body in the river that they get rid of evidence, but they really do not. I knew eventually Katrina would surface and her body would be able to tell me how she died and how she spent the last minutes of her life.
Katrina's body is badly decomposed, but the coroner declares the cause of death as blunt force trauma to the head.
She was probably most likely struck from behind, and defensive wounds on her forearms would have indicated an attempt to protect herself.
The type of weapon that would cause those types of injuries is some kind of cylindrical object.
We were able to determine from the evidence that that cylindrical object was more than likely a pipe or a bat.
This was a brutal attack on Katrina Smith. The attack showed that the individual who attacked her was very aggressive, was very emotional, and was going to make sure that she did not survive the attack.
Detectives search the Smith home, looking for the murder weapon.
The bat was found during the execution of one of the search warrants in the garage in a corner. The testing of the bat showed that there was presence of human blood in different areas of the bat. It ended up being Katrina's blood.
Luminol is sprayed throughout the garage where the murder weapon was found.
Crime scene saw what they believed was evidence that a large amount of blood had been cleaned up from the area. We could see that the place that she was killed was in the garage.
They finally have the physical evidence proving Todd killed his wife.
We believe that Todd took his marriage vows literally, till death do us part. And his motive in killing Katrina was to maintain her as his wife forever.
Investigators are now able to complete the picture of what they believe happened to Katrina Smith in the final 24 hours of her life.
October 22nd, she went to work at approximately 8 a.m. She got off work at approximately 5:30 p.m.
She got to the family residence at about 6 p.m., where she started her laundry for her job interview the following morning at 7:30.
That night, Katrina tells Todd she wants a divorce.
Todd is pressuring her to stay in the marriage and not to seek a divorce.
Investigators determined that Guy Gabriel was trying to help Katrina.
We believe that she is looking for someone to support her in her decision to end the marriage. Guy is providing her that support through their text messages that night.
We believe what happened next is when she got ready to leave the home and go back to the condo, Todd was very upset.
We believe that when she is leaving the home, Todd struck Katrina to the back of the head with a bat. She then attempts to protect her head by putting up her arms, which shows linear marks that fit the shape of the bat, as he continued to beat her repeatedly. He then dragged her to the back of her vehicle and placed her in the fetal position in the trunk of that car, where she died. We believe that Todd drove Katrina's body to the bridge shortly after 11. He dumped Katrina's body into the river.
He then proceeded to drive the car to Ventura and Obispo, where he ditched the car. Then at 11:24, we have a text from Todd to Katrina's phone that says, "Sweet dreams, good night."
But Todd sent that text to his wife after he killed her.
The last text message he sent to her was a signal of, you know what, you will forever be my wife. You will die my wife.
Todd Smith is your classic sociopath in that he has these malignant impulse control issues. The sociopath can pretend to conform now and again, but whether it's provocation or just something they see as belonging to them, they will take it and they will use whatever force they have to.
On November 21st, 2012, Todd Smith is charged with first-degree murder.
The timeline basically put this case together and tied it in a bow. It was rock solid. We were able to pinpoint his movements. We were able to pinpoint Katrina's movements. And when she went off the grid, we knew that in order for her to be off the grid, she was most likely dead.
After a 2-week trial, the jury finds Todd Smith guilty. He's sentenced to 59 years in prison.
The murder of Katrina Smith was just a brutal, heinous crime. She was a beautiful young woman who wanted to live her life. She just wanted to live it without Todd. And instead of allowing her to do that, he decided to take her life. Todd believed that he could commit the perfect murder, and I think his downfall was the arrogance that he could get away with it.
She wasn't wrong. Her instincts were right there. She was being stalked. She just didn't know by whom. It was her own husband stalking her for years.
4 years after Katrina Smith is murdered, the case is closed.
I think about her all the time. I have pictures of her during her beautiful life that her family has shared with me, and I keep those pictures close at hand as a reminder of why we do what we do, more importantly, why I do what I do.
With every police officer, with every detective, with everybody in law enforcement, there are those cases that attach themselves to your soul, to your heart. Katrina and her family, they have permanently attached themselves to my heart.